So, hello.
Hello.
What kind of background information do you usually include in an IEP?
In an IEP, when I begin that process, I think it's important to have the social history, the family members, who lives in the home, developmental milestones, any medical history within the family. I think that the social history is probably one of the most important pieces. But the IEP, you have to have your testing, the academic info, the present levels, the strengths, and the weaknesses are also very important. But I think going into it, the social history.
Okay. And I have a quick question. When you said medical, do you ask like for parents, like what their medical history was too, just in case?
Yes. On when we do a referral, we have a social history packet, and within that social history packet, it has like, mother's, medical history and the father's, as much information as we can gather.
Yeah, that's really
so it's all included.
Okay. Okay. What are the basic parts of an IEP? Just general.
I would say services provided, present levels, accommodations and modifications, goals and objectives, and of course the least restrictive environment. You want them to be as much a part of the main group.
Inclusion.
Of course.
Okay. What are some of the basic accommodations that you would use or that you recommend?
I think the most basic that would probably be to emphasize the major points that you want the child to get.
Right.
Give them an opportunity also to repeat. Keep the instructions short, 1 or 2 steps, so they don't get lost in all of the.
Right, they're not overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed and trying to remember. Preferential seating is another huge one.
Okay.
I think those are probably the main ones.
Right.
Those accommodations and things as you go, you will see when you start looking at this student and you look at the social history and all the present levels, all of those things, it will start sticking out like, oh, I think this might be a child that if we did preferential seating would benefit, or helps paint that picture.
Okay. Who signs off on the IEPs when you do?
Okay, the IEP committee, and usually those people are the child's parent or guardian, the classroom teacher, your special education teacher, and usually an administrator.
So when it's like signed, does everybody have to sign like their part that they've put in? Like I know you said that like people kind of do different parts and like work together. Does each person kind of sign like what they do?
No, the IEP is just a nice organized little document that at the very end, the very last page, you sign, and if you agree, check agree.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Or that's the way the new paperwork is.
Right. Okay. What disabilities do you usually call for IEPs? Like which ones do you see the most often?
I would say SLD, specific learning disability.
We kind of talked about this, but how do you decide on accommodations? So, like, let's say if something happened and like you thought something, like you were like, oh, I'm gonna do this for an accommodation, and it didn't work. Like, how would you decide on a different accommodation? Does that make sense?
If it didn't work,
right?
I would have to, if I'm going to do any changing on their IEP, because those accommodations or modifications that I put, if they don't work, then I will have to ask the committee to come back together.
Okay, so everybody would have to
Everybody has to come back together. And I would have to make sure the parents understood why we were coming back together.
Okay.
If it was a behavior issue,
Right.
then if I needed to look into doing a behavior intervention plan,
Right. You have to do something completely different.
you know, I might have to gather, some assessments, informal assessments or whatever. So we'd have to come back before I can make that change.
Right. Okay. So you can't make any changes until you talk to everybody about it and then say, this is what I saw, this is what I'm thinking. Like, do you agree, disagree? Like, would this be okay?
I would have to be able to explain to the parent, why this accommodation is not working. This is why I chose this. I thought this is the result we would have, but it's not helping. I think instead of that, we should do this. But I would have to back up why I wanted to do that.
Right.
The teacher the whole committee would have to be in agreement for us to change that. It can't be like, I'm done, this was boring, it takes too much, or it's too much work, so we're just not going to do it.
Right.
I can't do that. I would have to call and make sure that.
And I'm sure if something like that would happen, like it would be something that the general education teacher would also be observing.
And I think that during the when we were having the IEP, when we're meeting for the initial placement or the program, the eval programming, this is the results of the test and this is what we're going to do. I think the accommodations and the modifications are discussed then. So I think that. And that's the beauty of it. The teacher could say, well, now these are some things that I had tried, and maybe we just need to be on the same page because what I'm meaning by preferential seating, she's not understanding it the same way I want it applied. And that way the parents there and they can say, oh, I understand. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because that's the whole point, that everything is discussed and they understand, so we will have to come back and make change something like that.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, what kind of goals do you put on the IEPs?
The goals are based upon the testing scores, what the test reveals, also their grade level goals.
Right. I remember we talked a little bit about that, because even if they might be on a lower level, their goals still have to be for their grade.
Right, and I think that's what some people don't understand. If they are in first grade, they have to have a first grade. It has to be first grade standards that are used, and how I go about getting there. We'll have to start where they are, and then just build on that.
So it might take longer, like if they're currently at a lower level, like let's say, since this is just K and first, so if they're like at like a lower level kindergarten, but it's like midway through first grade, then it might take like even more time to get them where they need to be. Probably.
Right, but in the IEP, that would have been addressed. If a child is leaving kindergarten and they have all their letters and all their sounds, and they've got the beginning, they can tell you the beginning sound. I'm just giving you for instance.
Oh yeah.
I hope this makes sense.
Yeah.
If they have their letters and sounds and they can tell you the beginning sound, the middle sound, and the ending sound, that's fantastic. If they can blend those sounds together, that's even better. Okay, and then we throw in some sight words, so we're reading before you know it. If that child has been placed in special ed service, they've tested and all of that, they're going to first grade, and they are just now able to blend. Does that, you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
I would start out with being able to blend like a CVC word.
Right.
Where first grade starts out basically with blends and digraphs.
Right.
So that student would come to me for spelling if they qualified. That's where I would start, and once they had success at that level, then we would slowly move up.
Okay.
Or instead of doing 10 words, do 5, and then steadily build up. Because hopefully we're going to get them to where they need to be.
Of course, yeah.
And catch them up.
Okay. how do you identify if a child needs to have time in your room?
It's all based on the testing. The adaptive behavior, the IQ, and the achievement testing.
IQ and achievement? What are some ways to assess a child's progress? So I guess more testing.
Yeah, more testing.
Yes.
I would say for my classroom, when I go to assess their progress on their goals, on their IEP, data, I use that.
Student
work, observation. If there's any assessment that goes with a curriculum-based assessment, it just depends on the level, because sometimes we're working at a different pace or a different level.
Okay, well that's all the questions I have for you.
Awesome. Thanks for the opportunity.
So much. Yes, thank you so much for talking to me about this.
Anytime. Enjoy it. You'll do great.
Well,